Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal podcast. I'm your host, Ril Joe Quinn, recording our first episode of a brand new month. The month of March is upon us. It's amazingly that we're already in the third month of 2025 as the year just flies by. Hope everybody out there is enjoying their evening. Episode 995, Face of the League, countdown to 1,000 continues. Of course, April 8th is the tentative date for episode 1,000 of the Real Deal podcast. We're going to begin with the deep dive. Oh, as always, like, subscribe, or share. Your support is greatly appreciated on this for this podcast over the past 16 years as we in the midst of year 17 of the Real Deal podcast. We begin with the deep dive, face of the league. I'm going to read you two quotes, and I really would like the audience to guess as you're listening to this, to guess which player said which particular quote. It ain't about the face of the game, and it ain't about one person or one show. It's about the culture of basketball, the most beautiful game in the world. Our game has never been better. Incredible young stars from all over the world and some older ones. Steph Curry should be all we are talking about today. That's coming off, of course, last week. Steph Curry's 56-point game last week. Let's discuss how great OKC and the Cavs have been this season with two completely different styles and break down why and how they have. Of course, if players don't perform, we need to discuss that too, and break that down. Here's the second quote from another player. Both of these players are superstars, by the way, in our league. To be honest, just for transparency's sake, it comes with responsibility. Player said after Friday's win in Atlanta. Well, I kind of gave it away from that standpoint. Now, whether you want the responsibility, it's up for you to decide. And ultimately, you don't have any control over it. You can go out there and be a monster every night. So, and I shortened that because the quote was, it wasn't just a quote. I mean, it was a long statement by one SGA, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. So the first quote was from LeBron, and the second quote was from SGA. SGA is about 26. LeBron James is 40 years old. And I thought SGA frankly said probably what LeBron should have, what a 40-year-old player who's been in the league 22 years should have said. And the guy who's currently the face of the league, along with Steph Curry, should have said, like, it comes with responsibility. Ultimately, you don't have control over it. And that's like, I've never seen, listen, I've been watching the NBA. And by the way, LeBron saying, you know, basically all the media says negative things about in terms of coverage. All the media says negative things about the league is all negative, which is the first thing from the truth. I can tell you because I listen to at least 5 different basketball podcasts, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna be honest with you, they are as objective can be. I can't stand the stands. I can't listen to. I can only do a certain study. I can't do a study diet of stands. Jordan stands, LeBron stands. I just can't do it. Drake stands. I can't do it. Even to a lesser extent, Kendrick stands. Like stand culture is. I can't. I detest stand culture. I just do. So I listen to these. I've been following the NBA for 35 plus years. Um, this has never been. I've never heard this much discussed about the face of the league. Let me be honest with you. Growing up, it was Magic, Bird, Jordan beats Magic, and then next thing you know is Michael Jordan, and that was that for the better part of well over a decade. It wasn't bequeathed to anyone. At David Stern, neither David Stern nor Adam Silver had a press conference or will have a press conference saying, "Hey, On March 4th, 2025, we declare Victor Wembanyama the face of the league. That's not going to happen. That's not how this thing works. And by the way, if you're a player in today's game, contrary to what Anthony Edwards said when he says he doesn't want it, is Victor's. That's for Victor Wembanyama. No, actually, Anthony, you want to be the face of the league. Because if you're the face of the league, that means you are winning championships or competing for championships. And that means you're probably one of the top 5 players, if not the best player in the world. Like you want to be, that's what you want to be. But so it's remarkable to me that players would use it to weaponize it in their winless battle against the media. You're not winning that battle to control narratives against the media. And again, or against ex players. Listen, I love the game. I love the current game right now. I think the product is contrary to what some media might say, contrary to what some players might say. I think the product is an excellent product. Can it be tweaked here or there? Sure. Can we have some better run organizations in the NBA? That's all sports. Absolutely. But the night in, night out product of the NBA is excellent. It's an excellent product. And I frankly have gotten tired this season of people complaining about the product. The All-Star game also weekend is shit. We understand that. But the game in, game out product is excellent. There's more talent in the NBA right now, even on the bad teams, than there probably has ever been, considering you have 30 teams. Now, do you need expansion? That's a whole nother conversation, a whole nother podcast. I don't think we should rush into expansion, to be honest with you. But even the bad teams have talented players. And again, both sides, older players, younger players, say dumb and reckless shit about the prior generation. I get so tired of some of these generational battles because the arguments, the takes are just dumb. They're just dumb. They're clickbait. Half of them don't make any sense. Half of them come with no research. You're just talking. But again, you want to be the face of the league. And, the NBA is in an interesting spot because this is, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander said it perfectly further along in that article that we are in a transitional period in the NBA right now. You do have the old guard on their way out, even though they're still playing at a high level in terms of Curry, in terms of LeBron, Curry, Durant. There is a new guard that's coming fast. It could come this year. I mean, SGA could win a championship this year. Cleveland might win a championship this year. Boston might win another championship. More than likely, it's not going to be certainly Durant. And more than likely, despite how well both these two teams are playing, it's not going to be the Lakers or the Golden State Warriors. Despite how well both teams are playing, they'll be fun to watch in the playoffs, but more than likely, neither one of those teams is winning a championship. So this is a new day in the NBA. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's the natural transition of the sport. But again, I don't think that this discourse about the face of the league is I don't think it's a bad thing, but also think that we gotta recognize what the face of the league, we can't sit up here and create. It's not, we can't create a face of the league. Like it just doesn't work that way. No, we can't make anybody the face of the league. It's something that happens organically. It's something that happens. It will just happen, and that'll be that. It won't be something that could be manufactured. It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. But again, I'm not letting the media off the hook. The media, you have a lot of guys in the media. You have guys in the NBA who cover the NBA who have agendas. You have guys who are out there trying to be the star instead of it being about journalism. Again, we live in a world. We can look at what's going on in politics. It is strictly everything is entertainment. It is way more substance. It is way more style than substance. Substance is just is. It's just the world we live in right now. But again, big time players, top players, great players have always been criticized. Always. That has never. That's in any sport. The NBA in particular. Um, I'll give you three guys that have been criticized even after they won championships. I mean, Larry Bird Larry Bird, Magic Johnson in particular, had two chips before they started calling him tragic, and then Finals MVP before the '84 Finals. He was horrible in that, probably more than cost the Lakers the series, and they called him Tragic Johnson. Came back in '85, won a chip, won his third, redeemed himself, and then ended up winning two more titles. Tim Duncan, one you might forget as far as being critical, as far as being criticized because of how quiet he was. Duncan wins a championship in '99. He at that point in time is the best player in the league. Okay, better than Shaq, better than Kobe, better than Grant Hill. He is clearly the guy in the league. Akeem is older, was cooked at that point. He wins a championship, of course, in the lockout shortened season, 50 games. You remember 50 games in like 90 days. It was a ridiculous schedule. Spurs dominate the playoffs, win the championship. Doesn't win another one until 2003 and was criticized for not winning like again right away because they said they called his first championship an asterisk. They said it was an asterisk next to it. And, could he win another championship? And it wasn't until he ended the Lakers bid for a 4P in 2003 that he got the respect, got his real just due respect as far as being a dominant championship player. And it was no more asterisk, and he ended up winning 5 championships and being probably one of the top, not probably, one of the top 7 to 8 players of all time. Kobe had 3 championships. Okay, 3 championships by the age of 23. But it was like, hey, you can't do it without Shaq. He was vilified, especially what happened in Game 7 against Phoenix in the 2006 playoffs when he didn't shoot the ball in the first half. Um, took a lot of shit from Barkley, Charles Barkley, got criticized. They got eliminated in the first round in back-to-back playoffs. They get Paul Gasol. He wins 2 more championships. That was the end of that discussion. Because he won 2 championships without Shaq, without a top 75 player. So, and again, the point is, everybody, like, if you're a top player in this league, if you're somebody who is who is either even perceived to be a top player, you're going to have to go through it. You're going to be critiqued. You're going to be criticized. It's just a part of it. It's all, there's still a phrase on the wire. It's all in the game. It's all in the game. You cannot have it both ways. You can't have all the praise without the criticism. It just doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way in life. Like, it just doesn't. So, this is obviously, and I think this discussion is good for the game. It's getting us. We're talking about the NBA that much more. But again, the face of the game is something that is organic. It just not is nothing that's created or manufactured. Like, you will know who that guy will emerge very soon, and we'll all know who that guy is, and we'll keep it moving. So you had the Tank Davis Lamont Roach fight on Saturday night, and it just goes to like, and of course it ends in the draw. Um, it ends in the draw. Great fight. It was just as classic boxing to just completely jack up what was a tremendous fight between two great fighters. Lamont Roach. A lot of people thought there were people that thought Lamont Roach won. You had, of course, the Tank fans thought that he won. Listen, by letter of the law, the fight was so close. Okay, with the decision, that knee that Tank Davis took in the ninth round should have been a 10-8 round, and Roach would have got a split decision. You cannot have that happen in a in a world championship boxing match with the whole world watching. And again, it's not even like there's been so much shit and so much shenanigans with boxing over the course of forever that this type of thing is not even surprising. It's just not. Again, that was a great boxing match. It was a tremendous fight. Both guys were going toe to toe. You talking about these are two like Lamont Roach was the big winner of the fight as far as him. If you didn't respect him before the fight, you had no choice but to respect him after the fight. There's no one has put hands on Tank Davis to that level ever in his career. Like Tank Davis barely doesn't even get barely gets touched at all. He's a great defensive fighter with incredible knockout power. Roach touched him a lot. Roach went toe to toe. Roach talked shit. Roach got to him. Both their faces were, I mean, both their faces were kind of messed up I mean, you could tell they'd been in a fight when you looked at them at the post game press conferences. And of course, both men thought they won the fight. Naturally so. That's what happens in a draw. Sometimes it even happens even if it's a split decision. But you can't have that embarrassment. Yeah, like how do you miss that if you are a world class referee? How do you miss that? The guy had a knee. It deduct the point. It's just that simple. Is that the rule is clear. It's not ambiguous. It's not something that is a loophole has a loophole in it. Well, like in the rule is clear. If a guy only a only the referee can grant a fighter a timeout. That's it. And no one should know that better than outside of fighters. No one should know that better than the fucking referee. Like, so it's like so when you see shenanigans, when you see shit like that, that's why it's hard to take boxing as great as of a sport as it is, sweet science that it is. It's hard to take it super seriously, and that's the type of shit that has boxing trailing MMA fighting by far in terms of the entertainment product of combat sports. Because MMA doesn't have that type of shit. They don't. They have entertainment, but they don't. You don't question. There's no question about who wins the fights or rules and shit like that. Not at all. So what should have been a great night for boxing, where we should have been just breaking down this fight. We could debate all night long who won or lost, what have you. We should not have been having a controversial conversation about something that was beyond obvious. Beyond obvious. We shouldn't have been having that. That conversation should not have been taking place. Go around the NBA. The Cleveland Cavaliers have been basically from start to finish the best team in the NBA for the most part, along with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Cleveland has gotten off. And I'll get to that. I'll go in reverse order. I'll get to SGA last. But Cleveland's gotten off to what a historic start. They're 50-10. Only 12 teams in NBA history have started out at least 50-10. Six of them are going on to win the championship. Cleveland, in the month of February, had the best record, had the number one offensive rating, number two defensive rating in the league. Now, here's the thing. So, did a little bit of digging here. Since 2000, you've had 24 teams go on to win 60 or more games. Nine of those teams won the chip. The latest being last year's 2024 Boston Celtics that won 64 games in the regular season and basically cruised to a championship. 11 of those teams have gone on to the finals. Those records of those teams are 9-2. So the teams that some of the notable losers, I shouldn't say losers, some of the notable teams that went on to win 60 games that did not win a championship. The 2022 Suns won 64 games. We know what Luka Doncic did to them in that game 7. Lose to a generational talent, Luka Doncic. They didn't have a generational talent on their team, even though as great as Devin Booker is. The 19 Bucks won 60 games. They lost to Kawhi Leonard, who at the end of that season, you could make a case was the best player in the world. Definitely at that point. Definitely at that point in his career, a top 5 player. The 18 Rockets won 65 games. We know they lost to one of the greatest teams of all time with the 4 All Stars with the Golden State Warriors. Easily could have won that series. Chris Paul was injured the last part of that series, as we know. But the Warriors were the Warriors. The 17 Spurs won 61 games. We understand what that. We understand what happened with that. Kawhi Leonard, you know, Pachuca comes down, undercuts Kawhi Leonard's ankle. That series was a wrap. After that, they lose 4-0. So that was that. That was that from that standpoint. The 16 Spurs, which don't get talked about a lot, they won 67 games and didn't even make it to the conference finals. They lost. They lose to Oklahoma City with Durant and Westbrook in their primes. So Serge Ibaka in 6 games. No one talks about it. That was Tim Duncan's last year. 67 games and didn't even make it to the conference finals. Of course, 16, you had the 73 Warriors. We know what happened in the finals, going down 3-1, the Draymond suspension, the whole 9 yards, losing game 7 at home. And in 15, you had the Atlanta Hawks who won 60 games and got eviscerated by LeBron, Kyrie, and by LeBron. No, not even by Kyrie. By Kyrie. Trying to think that might. I mean, LeBron and I think Love and Kyrie were hurt at 15, and Kyrie gets back in game 1 of the finals, and then he gets hurt. So they didn't even have Love and Kyrie in that series, and they still got smoked by LeBron and company in 2015. I believe I don't Love was playing. I don't believe Love played. I know Kyrie didn't play until didn't get back into the finals, and then he gets got hurt in game 1 with the broken kneecap. So I say all to say that you know I like Cleveland a lot. I've watched them closely over the past couple months, over the past month in particular. Um, they have a deep team. You have a situation where Donovan Mitchell is playing the best basketball of his career. They can shoot the ball. They defend. We know what they can do offensively. But it is hard to win a championship. Almost impossible to win a championship if you don't have a top 5 player. Right now, the Ringer top 100, and I really follow this list closely because they do a wonderful job with it, has done, and there's an updated list. This was probably updated on February 27th, so that's very recent. Last week, had Donovan Mitchell number 8, and that's about right. I mean, that's fine with that. Not top 5 though. And again, you got to go back. You got to go back to the 2014. Went back. You got to go back to the 2014 San Antonio Spurs to find a team that did not have a top 5 player that won a championship, and they had end up having probably 4 future Hall of Famers. Talking about Duncan Parker, Ginobili, and Kawhi Leonard will be in the Hall of Fame. So, and that team won 62 games. That team was a special team. That team's obviously Greg Popovich is one of the greatest coaches of all time. Everything came together for that team, coming off the motivation of losing that game 7 against Miami, blowing, the Ray Allen shot in game 6 in 2013. So that was that was a special team. Duncan 2014 wasn't cooked all the way cooked, but he wasn't. He was at the end. He was playing basically on one leg. Kawhi Leonard wasn't even Kawhi Leonard yet. But again, they had a great ensemble class. Not ensemble class. They had a great role. They had great role players. Played just beautiful basketball, and they were a rare bird. Like there's a reason why. That's 2014. That's a long time ago. The game, you're talking about in NBA years, that is an eternity in NBA years. The game wasn't even that wasn't even a 3-point game back in 2014. So it was an entirely different basketball, different type of game that they played. That the NBA, that the league was in a much different place. But it is hard to win a championship without a top five player. And again, Cleveland again, 50-10 is 50-10. You can't just sneeze at 50-10. I don't put too much into what they did against Boston at Boston. I know they were down 25-3, had the great win to come back. Mitchell's been great against the Celtics. I get it. But no Drew Holiday, no Kristaps Porzingis. And by the way, who knows? Those guys, I mean, Porzingis in particular, might not be healthy for the playoffs. He might be on and off for the playoffs as far as, you might get the one good year out of him last year, and that might be it as far as a long playoff run. That's a possibility. But a fully healthy, I still expect that a fully healthy Boston Celtics team will beat Cleveland because they have again what Cleveland does not have. That is a top five player. SGA drops 51 last night. Just again, it is absolutely his MVP to lose. I think it's safe to say that he not only is a legit top five player, he's one maybe the ringer rankings had him number 3 right now. Even though I still think it's Joker Giannis, but I know we can have that conversation about SGA being the third best player right now as we speak. I think he's the best scorer in the league right now. Like scoring from all 3 levels, the efficiency. He shoots closer. He's shooting well over 52% from the field, about 37% from the 3-point line, and almost close to 90% from the free throw line. And all his shots from the field, his shots from the 3-point line have all gone up career highs in terms of in terms of field goal attempts and also 3-point shots attempted. And again, he does it easily. He does it efficiently. He does it. It doesn't look like he's breaking a sweat. And I think for the past decade or so, it's probably the number one scorer has been without question as far as how easy a score is Kevin Durant. I think he has taken that spot away from Kevin Durant as being the most lethal scorer in the game today. Like I think he's the best scorer in the game. Like I really do. And again, it is absolutely his MVP to lose. And it's interesting. Like last year, early in the season, I think I did a podcast and I posed the question: who would you rather have in the future? Whether it was Anthony Edwards versus SGA. I said based on the age difference, there's about a 4-year age difference. I would take Edwards. Anthony Edwards goes on, gets his team to the conference finals, and and had a tremendous postseason. I know he didn't play great against Dallas, but did everything to get them up to get them to that point. I don't think like as we stand right now, I got to kind of recant that statement because though I still think Anthony Edwards' ceiling is higher than SGA's. Like this is probably the best we'll see of SGA, and I think Anthony Edwards has a long way to go. Can get can get a lot better. I look at the franchises right now. Like which franchise? I mean, who you rather be? Minnesota with a horrible contract with Rudy Gobert, or and no picks versus Oklahoma City with good contract with a bunch of great contracts and a war chest of draft picks and so much and flexibility. So I don't even think it's a question. Like who'd you rather have on your team and who's you rather have on your team right now, considering the organization, how their organizations are constructed at this point. And we all know watching sports, football, basketball, whatever, it's that organizational stability goes a long, long way. Now, Minnesota is going to have a number of question marks at the end of the season. The Julius Randle thing is not working. Can they possibly get off the Gobert contract? We'll see. We'll see. Oklahoma City does not have anywhere near those questions. And again, Oklahoma City has the means to pull off a major move. They can go out there and put pressure on Milwaukee and say, hey, we got this. You want Giannis. They can go out there and make a major move like that. The Minnesota cannot. And finally, around the NBA, Kyrie Irving suffers a season-ending torn ACL. Just an absolute devastating blow for the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I'm not gonna say their season. Their season, as far as competing for a championship, is done. They that's just not that's not gonna happen. They can still make the playoffs. In terms of the play-in, they're 3.5 games in the loss column ahead of Phoenix, which is an absolute shit show. 4 games, they have 4 more wins than Phoenix, so it is a possibility that they can make the play-in. But you can make the play-in, and where even if Anthony Davis does come back, you have no. Their best creator right now is oh man, his name Spencer Dinwiddie. It's probably their top creator right now. So and not going far. He's a very good player, but Spencer Dinwiddie, PJ Washington, you're not, you got Dante Exum. Like it's not going to do it. And on the same, Kyrie gets hurt the same day that the Dallas Maverick front office organization decides to raise the ticket prices. It's like everything that could this trade was already, even before even before the Kyrie and Anthony Davis injuries, this trade was perceived as being a disaster and perceived as being one of the worst trades in the NBA history. And now, if you're Nico Harrison, it's like you better have you better have the resume, like, keep it warm, like you because this is not going to end well. This is not going to end well again. This is the worst case scenario that a Dallas fan or a Dallas, well, maybe no, this is not the worst case scenario, because their worst case scenario was Luka getting moved in the first place. So for your Dallas fans, it's not even the worst case anymore. Like, you already saw the worst case just based off the reaction they had with Luka Doncic leaving or being traded. But for the Dallas organization, this is by far the worst case scenario that they could possibly think about. And by the way, it was the risk that they did. You traded Luka Doncic and you put your hopes into two guys that have had a hard time staying injured, a hard time staying healthy, in Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving. One is gone for the season, and the other one, who knows when Anthony Davis is going to get back. We don't he's supposed to be reevaluated soon. We'll see. We don't know when he's going to get back on the court. We'll probably, more likely see him before the season's over with. But these are guys that you put everything into, that they were going to be healthy. And again, Kyrie, this was one of the worst. The timing couldn't be any worse. Not only right before the playoffs, but the fact, this is an 8 to 12 month injury, and Kyrie is not. Kyrie's going to be 33 on March 23rd. And he's had a litany of injuries over the course of his career. He has not played more than 70 games since the 2016-2017 season. That's like, it's 8 years ago. So Dallas is fucked, to say the least. As the Lakers and Luka keeps winning with the Lakers. If you're a Dallas fan, I'm not laughing at you. I actually, despite being a Laker fan, feel bad for the Dallas fan, the real Dallas fans. Feel bad for them. I mean, the Dallas Maverick fans don't deserve this. They don't. But this is where they're at right now. And there's no way out of it. There's no way out of it. Even if Davis comes back and plays great, they don't have no guards. They have no dribble creator, no guys that can create offense. A couple of real thoughts before I let you go. Two legendary figures were lost in the world of entertainment. First, Gene Hackman last week was found dead in his home along with his wife and 3 dogs at the age of 95. His wife, at the age of 63, still haven't found out the cause of death. Hackman, legendary actor, of course, had been retired for the better part of 20 plus years. His last movie, I think, his last movie was made 20, was Welcome to Mooseport in 2004. The two Academy Award wins, 5 nominations, and it wasn't about with him. It was about the performance. It wasn't about special effects. It wasn't about he wasn't all over the place as far as in the limelight outside the movies that he made. You wasn't gonna see him. You wasn't gonna see Gene Hackman lived a very relatively private life, especially the last 20 years of his life uh, in uh, in Santa Fe, in New Mexico. But as an actor, the thing that he did was when you watched him, you believed him as an actor. There was a trust between Gene Hackman and the audience. That's a very, very rare things for an actor. There was a trust, and you know you hear the term that's been thrown around, everyday actor and everyman actor and things of that nature, which is fine. The man was just uh, as serious as you can be about the craft. He was a craftsman. This guy was not about, Gene Hackman wasn't winning contests about, he wasn't going to never be GQ sexiest man alive. It wasn't about, he was about performance, pure and simple. Not calling Gene Hackman ugly, but he was about the performance, and he was not. Even though he had a number of lead roles, The Conversation, and of course, The French Connection, which he won Academy Award for, a Best Actor award for. He wouldn't hesitate to take a great role as being part of an ensemble cast. He took some tremendous roles. Crimson Tide, and I can make a case of Crimson Tide at that point. He was just the star or co-star along with Denzel, but Absolute Power was an excellent movie, underrated movie. Uh, of course, Unforgiven, where he won his second Oscar, his last Oscar back in '92, directed was by Clint Eastwood, and of course Clint Eastwood did Absolute Power with them. I mean, he took a Bonnie and Clyde when he started off. That was about Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway, and he was relatively unknown when that came out. I think it was in '67. So you see a lot of actors, a number of actors, make the mistake of taking lead roles when the script or when the movie is really not that good. They end up costing them versus taking a lesser role with a better script. Hackman rarely made that mistake. Rarely. So the two performances that stand out to me, but with Hackman, I would say are Hoosiers and Unforgiven. He was such a piece of shit. Unforgiven. That guy. I'm telling you, even as 13 or 14 I was so happy when Clint Eastwood. Spoiler alert! If you haven't seen it by now, it's 30 plus years old. But I was so happy when Clint Eastwood shot him. And of course, one of the most famous lines in movie history in terms of a western. I was building a house. I don't deserve this, and Clint Eastwood, deserve ain't got nothing to do with it. And then you see uh, David Simon use that line, write that line in The Wire in 2008 when Snoop died, when Michael killed Snoop, because he had his, of course, his love for westerns. Um, so G. Hackman, of course, passes away at the age of 95. Just a legendary career that left we'll be watching his movies for the next forever. How long you watch his movies forever. He has some timeless performances, no question. And Angie Stone tragically was killed, of course, in a car accident over the weekend. At a young age to me, and I don't care what some might not be the son, but 63 years old. 63 is young. Like 63 is young. Angie Stone came along in that era, and she had been around. She had a long and illustrious career. Began performing early, but she really came to prominence in that late 90s, early 2000s with the neo in that neo soul era. You had the Erica Badu's, you had the D'Angelo, you had the Vivian Greens, Bilals of the world. And she was right in the middle of that. Just a tremendous voice. It's a tremendous voice and music that, her music, I would say her music just spoke to your soul. I mean, you talk about a soul singer, you talk about somebody whose lyric was lyrically as a singer gifted. She had a number of writing credits. She had a number of writing credits over the course of her career. Just beautiful voice, and just something like I was just obviously like many of the rest of the world was completely just shocked and taken back about what happened to her again at the age of 63. And again, she's one of those artists that you remember where you were at when she came out. Like her albums came out in that 99, 2000. She came out a couple albums between 99 and 2002 in particular. I mean, I know she came out with some stuff before that, but when I really started listening to her, it was in that 99 to 2002 range. And I was at college at Temple University. So it was kind of for me, that was a big part of my, that again, especially in Philadelphia, that Neil Lee and Jill Scott as well, Eric Badu, that again being a part of that neo soul era was a big part of my music listening during that time in my life. And I'm 22, 20, that 18, that 19 to 22, 23-year old range. And again, I can't express how great of a voice that she had. And finally, wrap up the program with Deebo Samuel coming to the Commanders in a trade over the weekend, a 5th-round pick. Now, listen, you give up a 5th-round pick. It speaks to a couple of things. It speaks to good for the Commanders from the standpoint of if it doesn't work out, you only gave up a 5th-round pick. That's number one. And you got to keep this in mind. His numbers have gone down every single year going back to 2021. There was a point where Deebo Samuel was a legit top 5 receiver. I thought there was a point, 3 years ago where I could make a case where he was the most complete receiver in football, all around, blocking, catching, running, physicality. Again, his numbers in terms of yards per game have dropped every year. 21, 22, 23, 24 was I believe his career low. He's only was at about 44 yards, 45 yards a game. Now he's coming to an offense that is a run first offense. He's coming with a quarterback who is seemingly only going to get better. He will not have to be the number one. That's Terry McLaurin. So, if he can stay on the field, which has been an issue, we know he's one of the most physical receivers in the league. If he can stay on the field, he could be a major weapon for Washington. Like I said, this is a deal that you absolutely have to do. If you're only going to give a 5th-round pick, it is a high reward, low risk type deal for the Washington Commanders. Now, does it put them over the top? No. This is just one piece. They have a lot of work to do on the defensive side of the ball, and some moves that they need to fight, and some additions that they need to make on even the opposite line. But this is a guy that at this point in his career absolutely could be a legit number 2 receiver. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Ril Dil podcast. I will see you next time. Have a great and wonderful rest of your week. So long.